Well. Happy Friday, my friends. I hope you guys are looking forward to the weekend and had a great week so far. And this is going to be a fun show. We're going to be talking with Mr. Brandon Amalani. We're going to be talking about raising conscious awareness and EMF mitigation strategies and personal growth. And he's really a cool guy. And we are now offering his products in our store. So if you guys want to check those out, you can. But I had a great conversation with him a couple weeks ago. And we're going to have a great talk today. So this will be really cool. If you're new to the show or don't know anything about Extreme Health Radio, we broadcast live 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. So if you want to join the live show, ask questions, and get access to a lot of these really great people that we have. And, a lot of times access to them is pretty limited or pretty costly. So this is your chance to ask a lot of the guest experts that we talk to direct questions about your health and healing process. So the shows are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. So you can join the live show at extremehealthradio.com. You'll see the instructions there. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, make sure to subscribe or tag a friend, or if you have a Facebook group, make sure to share it in your group. That way more people can get access to this really cool information. This is, let me make sure I get this show number correct. So it is episode 616. So if you guys want to get the show notes when the podcast version becomes available, everything will be available. All the links and everything we talk about will be available at extremehealthradio.com/616. And let me tell you guys a little bit about some of our upcoming guests that we have. A lot of cool things happening on Extreme Health Radio. So let me just bring that up here for you. Let me bring that up on the actual page itself so you guys can see. A lot of cool people. Let's see. If you guys are watching on the YouTube version or the video version, you'll be able to see our upcoming guests. So on Monday, we're going to talk with Nathan Walls about how light is more important than food. So that should be an interesting show, right? And then it's going to be kind of a doubleheader on Wednesday or on Monday. That'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific. And then at 10:45 a.m., we're going to have JB Hanley. We'll be talking about his journey with his own child and vaccines and autism. So that should be really interesting at 10:45 Monday. Next Wednesday, we're going to have Aaron and Geneva Bigelow. They're the mad scientists behind the AMP coil. And that's an interesting device. It uses PEMF therapy along with Rife technology and kind of combines everything together. So we'll talk to them about that. And then next Friday, we're going to have Jason Prawl on the show again, and he's going to come in studio, and we'll be talking about longevity and a lot of the biohacks and things like that he's really into. So a lot of cool stuff happening. But today we're going to be talking about EMF mitigation strategies, and we've got Brandon Amalani on the show. Let me bring him up really quickly, and let me just give you a little, he's the founder and the creator of Shen Blossom, as well as he's the sole distributor of Blue Shield, whose products we have in our store. And he specializes, at least on the Shen Blossom side, in specializing in sourcing rare top-grade herbs, and he works a lot with herbalism, and he's really into traditional Chinese medicine, and he helps to guide people into understanding themselves better in order to work to heal the body, raise the spirit, and to increase personal peace and conscious awareness. Gosh, that's Brandon. That's quite a tall order, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the name of the game, conscious awareness.
That's it, right? Yeah, conscious awareness. Yeah, it was really cool talking with you on the phone privately a couple of weeks ago, and getting to know you and your technology and what you're really all about, which is really raising people's conscious awareness and helping people activate that sort of higher side of themselves. I really think that's awesome, and that's the core of the work that you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's key about that is that, there's so many levels that we exist on: mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And, a lot of people tend to leave out a lot of the electromagnetic man-made radiation that's affecting our peace and well-being. So shedding some light on that with the EMF protection products kind of falls in line and harmony with what we're doing with herbal nutrition, herbal medicine, body work, a lot of these things that we promote on Shen Blossom.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool because, not a lot of people are really understanding, especially, in the mainstream. I think maybe in the natural health world, probably, I'd say, about the effects of EMF. But it doesn't seem like a lot of people in the mainstream really get it about EMF. Man, we were driving yesterday to, where did we go? We went to a holistic vet for our dog a couple of days ago. And, man, the amount of cell towers that you see, like these huge, massive cell towers that you see, like, they're just popping up everywhere. And it doesn't seem like anyone's really, making a big deal about it, except for those of us in the natural health community.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's with the rollout of 5G or the soft rollout, we're going to see more of those towers, unfortunately, because it's a higher frequency bandwidth and it basically takes more repeaters to get that transmitted. So you'll probably start seeing these on more, street blocks, just way more regular than you will, Wi-Fi towers as they are today.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that with the repeaters, because like in my understanding, it's my understanding that because the technology or the wireless radiation has to be so sort of powerful, like self-driving cars and all this crazy stuff that they're going to use it for, it has to be so powerful, and in order to get that much ability out for people to be able to use it, they have to install way more towers all over the place, right?
Yeah, and in fact, the waveform loses power over distance. So the higher frequency, the less distance it can travel. Therefore, you need more repeaters to amplify the signal and transmit it in more places, essentially.
Wow. Yeah. Because I just, for those that are following us on Instagram, it was interesting. Last week, I was doing my workout in my garage and I noticed a group of people walking around our neighborhood. And I'm like, what are those people doing? And then eventually they walked up to us and there was about 4 or 5 moms and a group of kids who were walking around handing petitions to people about a brand new, I think I told you this on email, a brand new 5G cell tower that's within 297 feet of our neighborhood, and it's going to be rolled out in the next 30 to 60 days. So it's popping up everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it actually might be a flop. I mean, really, it's an extremely inefficient form of communication, and the Japanese have actually improved upon the satellite technique that allegedly, from what I've read, I don't know this for sure, but it's basically way faster than 5G currently is. So we'll see if it actually pans out and if it's going to be a long-term solution, or if they have a better, more efficient technology using satellite.
So explain that a little bit. So the Chinese or Japanese are using satellites and it's faster?
Yeah, Japanese are using something that I read. I had an article, actually, the founder of Blue Shield forwarded it to me the other day. So I glanced over it, and apparently the Japanese have come up with a satellite technique that produces lightning fast internet anywhere within a local vicinity of a major city, without using the 5G repeaters that they're installing here in the United States. So we'll see how that develops out. And yeah, right now, from what I understand, the 5G is somewhat of a soft launch. So they're doing specific cities, they're rolling it out. It's not a huge campaign because they have to build a massive infrastructure, which is really costly. And yeah, we'll just see if that ends up being, what happens in the future. But by and large, EMF is all around us. It's not just cell phone towers. It's what's moving through our house. It's, any electronics are producing an electromagnetic waveform that's interrupting our cellular biology in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like this 5G, I mean, you're talking about, what is that, 5 billion resonating cycles per second? Is that what that means?
Yeah, something in that wavelength form. Yep. It's
Fi-
really, really fast, high frequency.
So, I mean, it's just nuts to me to think that like we're exposing ourselves to this stuff. Just so that we can, download a Netflix video quicker. It's like we're exposing ourselves to 5 billion cycles, resonating cycles per second, and without sort of any questioning it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a new technology. I mean, if you think about when AM radio came out, we haven't really evolved that long with this type of technology. And what we're finding with the EMF protection technology, the Blue Shield, is that the body stops responding to it. One of the major factors that causes the inflammation markers, the white blood cell count to raise, is the fact that our body perceives it as an unnatural threat, essentially like it would a virus or a bacteria, and it ramps up immune power to try and fight something. However, it's always pervasive in the environment, and our body can never really win against it. So we're constantly burning up immune power to try and fight something that we can't really do anything against. So yeah, that's what's really profound about the Blue Shield and how it works on the cell level, because you can get your readings down on a tri-field meter or any kind of measuring device, right, and you can get those levels down, but still the informational field that's created when something manifests in time space is still present, and that's still harmful to the biology. So that's, playing with different pendants and different things over the years, I really hadn't found anything that worked at the cell level like Blue Shield does. So I'm pretty excited to be sharing that with people.
Yeah, I want to get into the technology of how it all works and all of that, and the different devices that you have to help people. When it comes to all of this stuff, you mentioned how it affects the immune system in a sort of dangerous way. So it sounds to me like what's going on in today's culture is that we're causing our immune systems to have to work so hard with toxins, exposed to toxins and chemicals and stress. And now you're adding EMF on top of this. And like I was saying before, not a lot of people are really talking about what EMF is doing to the body. And when you talk about it like that, like, we only have one immune system. And if we have to have the focus of it be on, the food that we're eating, because we're eating food that's, damaging to us, it's not going to be able to do anything to this EMF, So it's like a singular system, right? That can only be used for a certain amount of things.
Well, right. And that's why a lot of practitioners end up picking up our devices and getting people on the devices, because all the work they're doing with herbal nutrition, exercise, movement, emotional healing techniques, very they're limiting their results because people are still exposed to large amounts of Wi-Fi, smart meters, things of this nature in their environment. And our cells, they're bacterial in nature, so they're basically always sensing changes in the environment. And that's how heat therapy, like a sauna, really helps to stimulate the immune system and cause a healthy type of stress on the cell, where the cells activate the heat shock protein system. Or cold therapy, it's always sensing the changes in the environment. And what's really key about Blue Shield is that this signal coming into the environment basically tunes in via a process called sympathetic resonance, and the body starts tuning into that and stops fighting the EMF. And it's pretty complex algorithms and code and multiple waveform levels in that technology. But essentially everything in the environment is sending you signals, including the artificial and unnatural frequencies coming from cell phones and technology.
Right. And it's interesting too. I've heard it said that our mitochondria is kind of similar in that respect, where it's like a submarine, always sending out radar signals to try to figure out like what kind of environment we're in. Are we in a cold environment? Are we in a hot environment? Are we in a pressurized environment? So your mitochondria is always sending out these signals. And when it's understanding, or what it's getting back is some sort of vibration frequency from 5G, it's just got to scramble everything. It's like
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is that you'll see a lot of this research, this peer-reviewed research in Journal of Psychology and Psychiatric Care, that radio frequencies in particular tune into the nervous system in the brain and affect the voltage-gated calcium channels. So lots of depression, mood disorders, anxiety, just random, people don't know where it's coming from, but a lot of correlation is being made in the hypothesis of the radio frequencies being, part of that, which is pretty crazy, because a lot of the radio frequencies have been around a lot longer than the Wi-Fi and some of the stronger signals that we're seeing in the environment today. So if that's an indicator of where we were from Wi-Fi or AM radio to today, and where Wi-Fi started into the future, that's something we got to consider for longevity and health, and epigenetic health as well.
Yeah. It seems to me, I wonder if you can track the depression rates with anything, consistent with wireless radiation and things like that. Because if these things do affect the nervous system, affect the brain, it seems like you would find a correlation, of depression rising, as well as more and more wireless.
Well, the tricky thing is that everybody's biochemically different. They have a different physiology. They have a different gene lineage that's passed on. So some people if we have this bell curve of health, some people are really in a peak state to where they can deal with a lot of stress, a lot of unnatural frequencies, they can eat poorly, and they can have a decent amount of health until later in life. Whereas people on the edge of the bell curve really struggle. And some of these people on the edge of the bell curve are electromagnetically sensitive people, that it's kind of like eating the same food over and over and over. We're designed to have variety, but if we have the same food constantly in the system, it causes histamine response, allergic reactions. The enzyme profile in the liver has to break things down over and over in a repetitive way, when we're designed to kind of move around and get different foods seasonally.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's interesting. We had Stephanie Seneff on the show a while back, and she was talking about, it was interesting, autism, and we're, talking about, the different factors that could be, an issue in terms of causing autism. And she said that, three of the main things that she's seeing is glyphosate, obviously, which is a big part of her work, Monsanto Roundup, and glyphosate being in the air we breathe, even, she thinks. And vaccines, obviously, a lot of people think that there's a connection between vaccines, but she said what ties those two together with a third prong is EMF radiation. And so she was, saying how the EMF combined with vaccines and glyphosate are the three sort of headed monster that's causing all this, like autism in this culture. It's just, it makes a lot of sense when you understand what's really going on, though.
yeah, it's compounding essentially. Yeah, it's never just one thing. I mean, everything in your environment, how you think, act, feel, what you eat, all of that interconnects to determine your level of health baseline. So yeah, EMF is a huge thing that a lot of people, I mean, I think there's more being about it. But yeah, it's something we have to factor in, and with everything else that she's talking about, and being able to detoxify regularly and having good strategies there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, would you say that it's probably one of the biggest threats to our health? Would you say that EMF and non-native EMF and wireless radiation and 5G, in terms of the things that could affect our health in a negative way, you have food, stress, all these different things, chemical exposures. But now this whole wireless and 5G thing is almost brand new within the scope of human history. Where would you rank that, do you think?
I don't really rank it. I mean, I'm of the opinion that everything matters, and I think the biggest thing that people need to develop and cultivate is their mind, because really most people can't focus. They have no meditation practice. They have no ability to understand and feel how their biofield is naturally generated, because there's a lot you can do with herbalisms, Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong, these energy practices to cultivate, store, and circulate energy in the body. So number one is kind of mastering the mind-body consciousness, kind of harmonizing the mind with the body and bringing it to a baseline, because how do you know if anything's really affecting you? It's really, if you have no internal barometer or measurement device to really kind of test out what's good for you, whether that's an herbal supplement, a job, a relationship, EMF. Most people aren't really in tune with their body enough to feel it. So that's a really important practice to develop, number one. So all of these other things, standing outside, getting into nature therapy, it just resets. It puts you in the alpha brainwave states. Just backpacking, hiking, spending time outdoors will recalibrate your nervous system to a large degree. There's a lot of simple things that you can do, to enhance your biofield. It's a really, that's kind of number one for me. So as far as EMF and the stretch of evolution, I think it's definitely something that we need to be concerned about. I do consider it dangerous, but at the same time, I understand the power of the mind, and we don't really want to create fear and anxiety around it, because that's naturally already happening with these fields in the environment. We want to realize that we have some ability to mitigate that first and foremost in and of ourselves in conscious awareness. And then we have these tools like Blue Shield, like herbs, like minerals, like things that we can put in our body that actually enhance cellular coherence and the optimization of our physiology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that happens. I think just as a default sort of setting that we have in our culture, human beings are just notoriously, they want to be told by experts what to feel and what to think, and want to be told stuff. And so I think what's happened is that, our culture, we just don't learn to go within anymore and see how things feel. We're always looking, hey, what does Dr. So-and-so think about, this herb, or what does Dr. So-and-so think about this product or whatever. And it seems like we're constantly being taken away from going within and being silent and being quiet and listening to what your body's saying and really getting in tune with that. I don't know what it is. Maybe we all just get programmed like that from school, and then we get involved for the first part of our life in the medical sort of side of how we think, and then that just translates to the natural side. But it's interesting how that works, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural process. I mean, one, yeah, there's conditioning from school, but also all information is just out there. We're our cells, like we were mentioning earlier, communicate with the external environment.
Mm-hmm.
We're always communicating with non-verbally, verbally, in different ways. So energetically, just being around with the Tai Chi lineage that I study with, there's an importance placed on working with a teacher. Until you develop the awareness to know if your posture is off or not. Some people have zero body awareness, so they might think that they're being upright when they're like leaning over. So
Right.
being around a teacher, and not only the oral and physical teaching and transmission, but just being around somebody who's a high level practitioner in any field will enhance the total communication and the information passed into the body. So, we're picking up environmental information on the cellular level all the time. It's natural. So we're just kind of a macrocosm of that to a certain degree. But yeah, we're in a day and age where information is so readily available. And, that's why people that know my work know that I don't position myself as an authority of any kind. I just have great teachers. And I, work with a lineage that has been doing, healing arts for 30 generations. So fortunately, I feel like I have some valuable information in that regard. But people, it can be a little bit monkey mind, like you're saying. People bounce around idea to idea, trying to experiment. Which experiment and variety is definitely good. But really, once you start to do the internal work, the neigong, the qigong, the internal energy work, a lot of that stuff kind of falls away, in my opinion, in my experience, because you have a more of a grounded, a self-awareness that really manifests from emptiness. So if you can empty out all those ideas, which sounds counterintuitive, you can basically sense outside of yourself a lot better, because you've done a lot of internal work and clearing out the clutter in the mind and the nervous system. And Blue Shield's just a tool that kind of works in the background while you're sleeping, while you're not fully present, while you're at the computer doing a radio show. It's kind of on in the background, working on those specific levels to kind of remind your cells that, there's no threat, there's no enemy, and it harmonizes, which we see really clearly in the animal research that's been done, both on the cow study and the poultry farm study, to where that, it's not just a mind over matter thing. It's not placebo, even though placebo can be used in a beneficial way. Mark Langdon, who was the founder of Blue Shield and the co-inventor, he was really adamant about testing on animals, because animals can't have a placebo effect. They have the same circumstances. Everything's basically at a baseline. And then you can just introduce a new stimulus and kind of see the results over time.
Yeah, and what's cool about, in this case, working with animals, it's not like you're testing on them, cutting them open, killing them, or anything like that. It's
Right.
It's exposure to the device, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just exposure to the waveforms and the scalar waves and the information that's imprinted onto those waveforms, and how it communicates at the cell level, because there's a lot of different ways to create scalar, using magnetic fields, using radio frequencies, you name it. But he created an innovative way to make a scalar wave using light or crystal photonics. Oh, wow. So that's a really interesting development that kind of piqued my interest when I heard about it. And it's just really interesting. And the fact, if understand cellular biology, our DNA, our cells communicate using biophotons, and we also communicate with the external environment as well using biophotons. So being able to create something out of light, Mark and I feel that it's like just a cleaner energy source to use.
Yeah, interesting you brought that up, because I was listening to a medical doctor recently talk about the biophotons and things, and he was saying that the interesting thing about our cells is that it's when cells die, they emit, sort of like when a cell or a star dies, it sort of explodes and emits a bunch of light. Our cells do the same thing, and then when our cells die, they emit this biophotonic light source, and then that's what the other cells use in order to continue to stay alive. And it's an interesting thought, right?
Yeah. Death breeds new life. That's, if you look at the yin and yang principle, I mean, really things in nature are kind of binary. It's ones and zeros. That's where yin and yang theory comes from. It's just yin and yang, 1, 0, you can call it what you want, yes or no. And, these waveforms that collapse and are out of phase 180 degrees, they're able to basically create a neutralized field, and that gives birth to that life force that generates new life. So scalar's kind of working in a similar way. That happens all the time in nature, in the cells in the body. And it's with Blue Shield, it's a lot more technical than that. It's not just one scalar wave. It's multiple waveforms. There's thousands of ways to manipulate a signal, a carrier signal, all of these. And they've just have so many layers of code and algorithm to where your body's never stimulated in the same way twice, which replicates, what we experience in nature. I mean, it's never the same month, never the same cycle. Cells in the body are always bringing in nutrients, removing waste, changing, growing, dying, regenerating. There's all these processes that are happening that we're really never in the same point in time and space, if you even think of the planet moving through the galaxy. Mm-hmm. So we need a technology that kind of replicates these natural laws, these natural principles, in order to be effective long-term. And that's what I see more than anything with the EMF protection devices, is that, a lot of them you'll feel, warm and fuzzy for a little while because they're brand new and shiny. But then after a while, the body just tunes them out because the body's really sophisticated. Mm-hmm. The body will basically understand that it's unnatural and artificial, and then basically tune it out. Mm-hmm. If it's just even the Schumann resonance, which a lot of devices utilize, that's just a peak frequency within the ionosphere. So there's two levels. There's static magnetic fields, which come from the Earth. That's always kind of like a static field. Uh-huh. And then we have a pulsing field that's oscillating, which is created by lightning strikes around the world. And those frequencies are always changing. They just took an average and created the 7.83 hertz that everybody knows about. But even that is like changing and oscillating, moving in a natural rhythm.
Interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the Schumann resonance that we hear about, the 7.83 hertz, that's just an average. So it's not always like that.
Yeah. Everything's always changing, man. Nothing's staying the same in nature. So that's it's within a range. Sure. Absolutely. That's there. And those low infrasonic, frequency range is definitely beneficial to health if used in a way that replicates nature. Again, if you have just a 7.83 hertz pulsing all the time, that's great. Your body's going to understand it to a degree, depending on the waveform, depending on the amplitude. But by and large, your body's going to tune it out really quickly because, even in nature, it's not like pulsing in that way.
Yeah, it's never static like that. It's I watched a documentary a long time ago about this, and I forget what they're talking about, but they're talking about the Schumann resonance, and they're saying that we have the same, like our brain or nervous system actually runs at 7.83 hertz. Is that true? Like it corresponds to nature?
There's frequencies. There's a lot of frequencies within the human responsive range that we respond to. Your body can be in different brainwave states. You can use meditation, you can use pulsed magnetic fields, you can use different types of entrainment technology, but your brain won't just stay at that particular frequency. It's not really quite as simple as that,
Yeah. I have a question here from the chat. We've got a lot of cool people here. Let's see. We've got Chris is here, Neil Jones, Gonza 75. A lot of cool people. Noam 1999, Jun Wu. A lot of cool people. But Mario wants to know, question, can we use orgonite to protect ourselves from EMF, and where can we purchase true orgonite? Interesting.
That's a good question. I'm not as educated on orgonite in particular. What I know about it is that it's basically paramagnetic metals that are layered within neutral substances like a resin or something like that. So I'm guessing that the theory behind that is that some of the frequencies and how they're bouncing around within this matrix and creating an amplification effect is having some type of benefit to life force. I can't imagine, knowing what I know from the standpoint with just being educated by Mark and going real deep in some understanding there, I don't know if it's particularly scalar energy in particular, but orgonite is kind of from what I understand, it's its own thing. It's allegedly beneficial, but I'm not educated enough on that particular substance to really comment, unfortunately.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things people are using, like shungite and orgonite, and we have those little pyramids around our house, and there's a lot of cool things people have these days.
Shungite will hold a charge. You just have to recharge it. Basically, you put shungite on the ground 24 hours, it'll hold a 24-hour charge. The carbon structures in there is definitely beneficial, and you can touch it and feel it. Same kind of principle where you touch a tree, you touch a leaf, it has that same effect. But yeah, it just has to be kind of recharged in order to hold that energy.
Yeah. Do you have any shungite around your house? Do you play with it at all?
I have some old shungite pendants actually, but no, I don't have any big pieces laying around the house or anything.
So what's interesting about the Blue Shield is that, okay, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to do a little break right now, but I want to get into how the Blue Shield is different from a lot of other mitigation strategies, because there are some really great mitigation strategies out there. But it seems to me like a lot of those strategies are basically like shielding yourself
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like the actual radiation getting to your body. And then the
Mm-hmm.
blue shield is working on a completely different pathway where it's retraining your cells. So maybe after the break, we can talk a little bit about how all of that works, because in my opinion, it would be like having a basketball team that only focuses on defense. But you have,
Mm-hmm.
don't have any offense. And so with Blue Shield, I know it's not like offense or anything, but it's a completely different way of training the body. So Brandon, maybe after the break, we can talk a little bit about that. Speaking of EMF mitigation strategies, and speaking of all of this stuff, I wanted to share with you guys this cool product. It's and I noticed that Brandon was using it recently too. It's called Symbiotica, and it's made by my friends Matt Blackburn and Shervine. And this is pure mitochondrial food. What it does is it allows the body to hold a charge, and it allows the body to carry electrons over the mitochondrial membrane. And so it's a really, really amazing product. According to Dr. Jack Cruz, he's a big fan of seaweed or sea-based mitochondria. This is an algae-based mitochondria. I'm sorry, not mitochondria, but DHA. And what's amazing about it is that it is also infused with astaxanthin, and astaxanthin is incredible, and it helps the body to be able to hold on to more light from the sun, and it's one of the best, most powerful antioxidants. Astaxanthin is, and I'm just a big fan of this stuff. We use it every single day. Kate's been on it for her entire pregnancy. Symbiotica DHA is just really, really incredible. And thank you to Matt and to Shervine for offering all of you guys a 15% discount. So if you want to use the code EHR, it'll give you a 15% discount. So make sure to check that out. And then also, I wanted to tell you guys about this Juve red light. We've been playing around with this for the last probably 3 months. And it's really amazing because it allows the body to, again, this is pure mitochondrial food for the body for, creating ATP and really allowing the body to hold on to more light as well. And it's, amazing for, building collagen in the body, and it's, helps to repair skin. It's great for, scars and wrinkles, and, people use a lot for wound healing and anti-aging. But essentially what it does is it feeds the mitochondria based on the nanometers of the light that it emits, and that is from 660 to 850 nanometers. And there's a combination of near infrared and red light as well. And so I like to hang it on the door. There's a picture. I'll show a picture of me here using it, standing at the. I mean, look at that. It's crazy, right? If you guys are watching, I got my little sauna there. And so sometimes I'll use this machine, and then I'll jump on the rebounder, then I'll go in the sauna, and I kind of, have a little, a little spa day with myself. And so this Juve red light therapy, I think, is one of the best products that we have. I'm really a big fan of it. Been using it for a lot of, for a couple months now. Noticed some really, really beneficial health effects from it, and really big fan of this thing. So if you guys want to go search on our store, you can go to extremehealthradio.com, and you can click on the store and get access to this Juve. And now they have a bunch of different models too. They're making like this modular design where you can sort of build your own sort of design. And, if you're watching, you can see this picture of this guy that's got, panels on all four sides of them. So it allows for this modular design, and you can build it over time. So it's really, really cool. Big fan of red light therapy, and basically feeding our mitochondria. And what's cool too is that this thing will last 50,000 hours. So it's like a one-time purchase. It's got a 2-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. It's just really, really cool. FDA tested, independently cleared. Good device. So we like supporting good people, doing good stuff on our store. So that's the Juve and the Symbiotica. And let me bring Brandon back on, and we can talk about how, let me bring you here, how, Brandon, does the Blue Shield affect the body's cellular biology so that it's stronger, and sort of, does it transmutate the actual EMF signals coming to the body, or does it completely just block them?
No, it doesn't change any of the frequencies inherent in the environment.
Okay.
That's the first thing to understand. So What it's doing is it's basically emitting scalar waves that are imprinted with millions of frequencies within the human responsive range.
Okay.
And they're coded in a way to where they have two principles of nature, basically chaos or randomization. And then the second one is coherence. So the body kind of understands it. Otherwise, if the body doesn't recognize it as something natural, then it'll basically try and ignore it or fight it as well.
Okay.
So it has to have those two principles. And when the device pulses every 30 seconds, so every 30 seconds you'll get about a 3-second pulse. And that rate over the last 30 years of development was found to be the ideal ratio or time interval to where the body basically notices it and then basically starts to sympathetically resonate with it. So after about a 7 to 14 day acclimation period, your body's going to basically seek out that signal in the environment. So that's why we developed portable units to where, your home unit's your main one. That's the one you get accustomed to. It's very, very strong. It's able to step up the voltage in an appropriate way to create a strong enough signal to get your body to entrain to it. And then once your body is used to seeking on the environment, the portable device, which is not necessarily as strong, is enough to keep the body entrained over time. And the basic fundamental understanding that we figured out back in the late 90s, or Mark and his team figured out in the late 90s, is that you have these frequencies, and we call certain ones good, certain ones bad. And there's really, if we're taking more of a neutral perspective on this, microwave frequencies in the gigahertz range, let's say, we consider that bad because it's causing damage. We also see these frequencies in the infrasonic range, 2 hertz up to 16 hertz, as beneficial because they're earth resonant frequencies. Now, the key understanding that he found out is that any frequency can actually be beneficial to the body if it lasts less than 15 seconds. If it's repetitive and lasts a long period of time, it starts agitating the body, and the body mounts an immune response to try and fight it off. So that was a key understanding of how the technology works. So at the right waveforms, the right amplitudes, the natural laws and principles built into it, this really complex algorithm emits a frequency that's, understood by the body the way we would understand frequencies in nature. And it basically stops fighting the EMF in the environment. And it's about 93% effective. Any device that claims to be 100% effective really just doesn't understand the biological transmutation or what happens when your body is exposed to frequencies. Right. The body has to do something with it, and usually it converts it into another form of energy, and that's typically heat. And so the white blood cells, the inflammation markers, all these responses in the body start attacking the EMF unless we have something like Blue Shield to kind of protect us at the cell level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also fascinating, and it's so complex too when you start looking at everything that's going on when it comes to this technology. I mean, it's changing all the time. Someone in the chat room was just asking about like how do we find new towers that are being erected all around the nation. The best website I know for that, Brandon, is antennasearch.com. Is there any other better resources? Are there any better resources that you know about?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, there's usually databases that compile that information like the one you mentioned. So I don't know of any other ones.
Yeah, it's crazy when you start thinking about like how much EMF radiation is being put onto us. Like I said before, in our neighborhood we've got a huge big cell tower and we're having a bunch of people fight it. But if you go to any school or if you go to anywhere, office buildings are now renting out the roofs of their buildings, and now you're working in a building that basically has a 5G antenna tower on top of it, not counting all of the other wireless radiation from all the routers and other things that other floors are using. It's insane.
I know. I saw some cell repeaters on a water tower near my daughter's school, and it's just unbelievable. Like, I mean, microwaving the water pretty much. It's just incredible. But it's people and humans have to live and learn, and we'll get past it. But the other thing that I wanted to point out as well that I think is an important takeaway on the Blue Shield is that you still have to have common sense. You don't want to like sleep with your cell phone on your chest. You don't want to put yourself in undue harm's way because there's acute symptoms. What Blue Shield seems to be really great at is kind of the accumulative effects. So it's basically protecting the body more in a long-term way, protecting the genetics from what we can see in the animal research and things of this nature. But I think you could still get localizing of the cells if you're holding a cell phone up to your head. So there's some blocking in some cases is definitely good. But at the same time, what Mark talks about a lot that I never really thought about in the past is that the the scalar component of these frequencies that are created in time and space are still there if you put foil up, if you cage your smart meter, any of this kind of stuff to block the signal that you can see in the visible spectrum. It's kind of like, talking about the body without the spirit. If you're, talking about the body and you block the body of the EMF out, you still have the informational field that's created in time space that still is damaging the informational imprint. And according to Mark, is more damaging than the actual frequency itself. So that's something to consider as far as a total EMF protection product. If people have things to, neutralize stray voltage, if they're caging anything, a precaution that I always put out there to people is that, you really don't want to live in a Faraday cage, because you're blocking all the natural frequencies, all the beneficial stuff out in nature, as well as the bad. So you don't really want to throw the baby out with the bathwater at the same time. That's why I think Blue Shield's a more perfect solution, that you don't really need to sleep under these sheets. But minimizing, if you afford the want to do it, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not harmful, and it's neutralizing some of the radio frequencies and stuff like that with the silver.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just things to think about when you're investigating an EMF protection strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that if someone wanted to live in a Faraday cage, or not live in a Faraday cage, I guess just sleep in a Faraday cage, do you think that if they did have those sheets, or now there's this paint that you can put in your bedroom, as long as you don't bring any devices in your bedroom, it seems to be pretty good. But if you did do that, if you did, like, let's say you just had the sheet over your bed, if you had the Blue Shield as well, would that bring in some of those harmonizing frequencies that would be able to get through that your body could actually get access to while still blocking out all the bad stuff?
Yeah, and that's what I really love about it, is that if there wasn't a problem with EMF, this would be a really nice anti-aging type device, because of what it does at the cell level, the cell physiology. When you look at the blood research, the urine analysis, the animal research that we have on our website, it's all on there. It's going to be doing some good, whether you're trying to fight EMF or not. And that's what I really love about it. So bringing it into the environment is just going to pulse out these beneficial frequencies in these certain waves that stimulate the cells, enhance the DNA, and really, act as an antioxidant on a lot of levels.
Yeah, that's interesting. So why did you say that if there were no EMF, this would be a great anti-aging device? Because I'm guessing it's because this is helping to fight EMF, or to, transmutate it so your body can really understand it. So if that stressor weren't there, then you would get all this anti-aging benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're basically replicating how the body communicates with nature, the frequencies that come from nature, and you're amplifying it enough to compete with the EMF. So you're basically getting a major dose of nature and bringing it indoors. So the body's going to really respond to that more so than it would to the natural environment, which our cells, we've evolved to. We're evolved to, be out in nature, sense what's going on, sense the temperature, humidity, all these kind of things that affect our biology. We're just like kind of amplifying that with using scalar, something that's completely coherent and non-harmful long-term to the body.
Yeah, talk a little bit about Mark, who's the sort of inventor and designer behind this whole, system. And, when we were talking on the phone, you were telling me a lot about his work and his background, and it sounds like he's a pretty intense guy and pretty crazy, like really, really into the work he does, right? Super smart and genius level, right?
Yeah, and very grounded as well. He's able to take these really complex ideas and distill them down into a really simple explanation. And that's what I really appreciate what he does. And he's been working on this stuff since 1986, back when NASA was kind of playing with PEMFs and things of that nature, kind of exploring like how the body's affected when we're outside the natural electromagnetic field of the Earth. Mm-hmm. He got into it years ago, and yeah, he's been developing this for a really long time. And then, when he finally got to a place where he thought he had like the perfect system with the multiple waveform output, he started doing the test on people and saw really great results, and just wanted to push it even further with the animal testing and stuff, just to, weed out the idea of placebo, more so proving it to himself and the two engineers that he worked with back then, that it actually works. And it's not just something, because you get into something, you're creating it, you start wondering, is this in my head? Am I am I just making this up? So he really wanted to prove it in regards to animal research.
That's funny. Yeah. Didn't he do a couple $1 million in testing on this as well?
Over that period of time, yes. Not at once. But yeah, there's, and most of it is, I would consider it fairly grassroots. he would go to local farms. He would work with blood technicians over in New Zealand, and just really kind of work with local people and figure out, hey, is this doing anything? So yeah, we're really excited. We're looking for people that want to, write a peer-reviewed study on it. We want to put it out there in that way to like really show people that we, believe in this technology. We know it works. We just, want to get it out there in a bigger way, because I mean, everybody's going to need this at some point. If we keep irradiating ourselves like this, I mean, what's that going to do for the future generations? I'm certainly concerned about my kids,
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you think about like all of the wireless radiation we're exposed to, 5G, dirty electricity in the walls, and just ambient radiation that's coming, just all around us. And then, radiation from, the devices themselves, like the monitors and just the actual devices themselves, not counting the wireless. I mean, it's something that it seems like human beings were only going to push forward. And, like, why wouldn't a human being want to go for 6G, 7G, 8G? I mean, because that's just what we do. It's like, that's what human beings do. We just want to innovate and, faster, smaller, and more convenient and less time and all these things. And so I imagine that will the Blue Shield, assuming that like we go to 6G, 7G and all that kind of craziness, if we do, is Blue Shield sort of scalable in that way?
Well, what we found with the algorithm is that it really doesn't matter what the stimulus is. I mean, even geopathic stress is remediated to a large degree with EMF, or with the Blue Shield. So yeah, it's unknown at this point. We won't know until that happens. But yeah, the software has really always been upgraded, and the last version of that upgrade has been out for like the past 3 or 4 years. So anybody that's purchased these devices in that time frame is protected against 5G. But what we're finding is we can't find anything so far, or this is based on what Mark said. We can't find anything so far that it doesn't work on, because it's working at the cell level. It's a communication with the device and the person. It doesn't matter like really what's in the external environment so much, and anything that's putting stress on the body from the external environment, is mediated to a degree. So that's what I was saying about, if there wasn't any EMF to worry about, you still have stress from exercise, from emotional stress, from working, all these different things. So it's still, useful in those regards to protecting the cells against any type of healthy or unhealthy stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so just. I think it's a silent sort of thing that's going on that no one's talking about, and it's so important. People are in the natural health community are focused so much on obviously taking care of their health and eating right and all this stuff, but man, what a stress this is putting on our system. And we have no idea what we're putting ourselves through, whether you're working at a regular office building or whether you are working in a hospital. Like, I can't even imagine the amount of ambient EMF, 5G, dirty electricity, wireless signals in a hospital, which is a place where people are supposedly trying to go to heal, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and the potential of this is that we could probably do wireless transmissions that actually heal people.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
It's just there's no conscious awareness of it, and that's why I always say that that's the bottom line. That's what people need to focus most of their time on, is like, how do you develop conscious awareness, and that alone. That's why I try and walk that line of educating about EMF on one hand, and on the other hand, it's really you don't want to create fear and anxiety, because that has a profound effect on our physiology. Over in Asia, there's certain cultures in Asia that if the doctor sees like stage 4 cancer in somebody, they don't even tell that person that anything's wrong. They tell the family, and then the family's responsibility is to tell the person, because they understand that authority, that person, that doctor, they understand how that influences and affects the person's health. And people have gone and gotten that diagnosis, and the family didn't say a thing and ended up living 10, 15 years. So it's really important to know that what's happening with artificial frequencies, but not really coming from a fear state, because that's really impeding your health and well-being. And creating and cultivating peace in your daily life, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, that is going to give you so much extra power in regards to immunity, focus, cardiovascular health, all of these kind of levels. It's going to really help to a large degree. So be aware of it, but just know that there's solutions. Don't create any unnecessary anxiety, fear around it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of of meditation and qigong and doing some of these energy practices, energy work, yoga, all of these things that that really allow you to go within. I love to work out and to go hiking and surfing and lift weights and all that kind of stuff. And I used to do jujitsu a lot and really into that kind of stuff too. But then on the flip side is like this idea of calming your mind and calming your energy and going within. And it's like, it kind of reminds me of that book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Have you ever read that book?
I know of it.
Yeah, it's a great book by Dan Millman, and he talks about this, the idea of the warrior. And, it's, I like what you said, because it's not really about creating fear in people, because a lot of times, on this show and a lot of other shows too, I mean, you start learning about, if you really get into the science of everything that's going on, and then you start looking at like all of the crazy conspiratorial stuff that's happening with the medical industry and every other industry, you can go down a dark path, and you can start really looking into things. And then at some point, if you don't have a spiritual practice that grounds you and allows you to say, no matter what anybody else does, I'm strong, I'm healthy, and I'm resilient, and I'm getting stronger and healthier every day. If you don't have a grounding practice like that, man, you could go down some dark paths, right?
Yeah, and that's a classic yin and yang principle. It's like yang, if it goes to the extreme, becomes yin. Mm-hmm. If you go to yin, it becomes yang. So it's this cycle. It's kind of like when you get a fever and your body's fighting off a virus. Let's say you get really hot and burning up, trying to burn it out, and then it goes cold, and then it goes hot, and then back and forth until it reaches this homeostasis in order to like burn out the pathogen. So it's there's this back and forth that happens. And even like black will be white, white will be black, everything contains its opposite. So when we look at science, there's scientific method proves a lot of amazing stuff, but at the same time, that can be used psychologically with memes and things like this to like use science as disproving something that's actually true. So it does get a bit confusing. You do go down a deep rabbit hole, especially with the social programming that happens out there. And again, really rooting it back into, self-care, self-awareness, developing that. And you can do a lot with your own mind, body, consciousness. Most people are just like, right now, I'm more focused on the external world and not really like running energy in my body, even though I'm mindfully aware of it. I'm not at that level of training where I can like really be grounded and rooted and circulating the chi all the time while I'm engaged in a conversation at this point. But that's the training that I'm doing and developing to where you become sensitive internally and externally to what's happening, and you can make a lot better judgment calls in your life on all levels. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's important.
Yeah, let me bring up some of your products here, because I got a few questions about what people might purchase, or what would be good for them. Let me see if I can bring this on the screen and see if you can see it. Hopefully it comes on. Let's see. Can you see it on the screen yet? There we go. Okay, yeah, so the Blue Shield, these are available in our store if you guys want to check them out, but I'm on your website, and let me bring it up here. So what are some of the products that people should consider? Because let me go to the products page here. That way people can look. There's a portable device. So those of you that are listening on the podcast version and not able to see what we're looking at here, there's a portable device, and then there's a disc that looks like a bit like a watch. And then there's a low radiation cap, which would be interesting. And then there's a Tesla Gold Series Auto. And then there's the plug-in, and then there's the cube. And so maybe if you can kind of run down these different devices for people and give them a quick sort of introduction as to what they do and what they might be used for.
Sure, absolutely. What we normally recommend is what's known as a home pack or office pack. It's a bundle deal to where you can get a home unit and a portable unit. And that's really the system, that's the full package. We recommend, if you are on a budget and can only get one or the other, we always recommend getting the home unit first, like a plug-in or a cube. Okay. And that's because, again, the voltage can be stepped up. It creates a much more powerful signal. For example, the plug-in, the regular black plug-in that you see, is basically 6 times more powerful than the portable, because you can only, step up the voltage enough to a minor degree with a lithium ion battery. So getting that will get your body entrained, and then later you can pick up a portable device so you stay protected outside of your protected zone. The difference between the plug-in and the cube is double the power in the cube, the coverage area. So if you tie a string to the regular plug-in and you go out 45 meters or 45 yards, anywhere you can take that string will have coverage. The cube goes 90 meters in all directions from the centermost point. So if you think about it as if you can imagine a sphere expanding in all directions from the center of the device, that's what it basically looks like. It's a sphere that goes out and then collapses back in on itself. So you'd want to put that in the centermost point of your house. So really, ideally, it's used as a duo. You get one of the home units of strength, and then you get a portable, which all of those are the same strength. And then you kind of use that where you can bathe yourself in the field for at least that 8 to 14 day acclimation period. That's where the animal research and the blood analysis showed that that's when the body really responds well and continues to respond well long term. Because again, it's not exposing your body to the same combination of frequencies twice. And the algorithm goes, you could pass this down to your children, your children's children, and they won't be exposed to the same frequencies that you were. So
interesting. Okay, so let me just make sure I understand this correctly. With the portable is obviously something that you would take, with you wherever you go, and you can charge it up via USB to your computer. And how long does that hold a charge for someone?
So if you have it on all the time, it's 7 to 10 days.
Oh wow.
So
Wow.
I turn mine off because, and here's the thing that a question that I get a lot as well is that, well, if I have 2 plugins or 2 portables, will I get double the protection? And the simple answer is no, because 1 times 1 equals 1. You can expand the distance of the field, meaning you can have more coverage area, but it's not going to give you a higher level of protection having that on.
Okay.
The other aspect is that your body's going to seek and tune into the strongest signal in the environment. So if you have a cube, which in my opinion is the perfect whole house system, large house system for anybody living in a city, if you have your portable on you, it's not going to give you any added protection. In fact, your body's going to ignore it and just tune into the signals coming off the cube. So there's no really need to have it on. So I turn mine on and off every time I come into the house, and I've had battery charge last for 6-7 weeks.
Okay, so the cube is basically a greater coverage distance than the plug-in.
And double the strength. Yeah.
And double the strength. Okay. So the plug-in might be, so if someone wanted to put this in, let's say they didn't get the cube and they didn't get the plug-in, but they wanted to protect themselves while they sleep, would a portable or a disc work for them?
Yeah, there are people that are hypersensitive, out of all the people that we talk to that love the effects of the portable, and they don't have a house unit. They'll put it under their pillow and just keep it on them all the time. And, it's the same algorithm, it's the same code. It's just the intensity or the amplitude or the strength is not the same as the other units. So people, most people aren't sensitive to notice changes on the cellular level, but people that have had issues with EMF or are immune compromised in some way, they notice quite a bit of difference, even with the portable models. The plug-in's more of kind of a budget entry-level model. It feels really light. It's just the circuit board, the microprocessor, and everything in there. The cube is built like a tank. I travel with that everywhere. If I go on a plane and I'm in a hotel room, I'll just have that with me, and then I'll take my portable with me while I'm on the plane or in a car or out and about wherever I am. So
that's interesting. And then the disc, it looks like a watch. What is that used for? If it's different than the portable?
That one is not, so that one doesn't have an on and off switch. So it's designed to be more resistant and resistant. So for people that are athletes that are, running, sweating, maybe out in the rain, don't want to worry about something falling out of their pocket, this is a way you can hold it on your wrist, or you can wear it as a necklace because we have an attachment that you can make it a pendant essentially. So it's cool. The same strength, same output, same everything on the microprocessor level as the regular portable. It's just different design, different functionality.
Okay. And then the hat I've seen before, and that makes sense. Is that like a silver threaded hat, or what's the technology in the hat here?
Yeah, there's no real technology. It is a double ply, so it's a really thick layer of double ply silver lining on the inside, okay. And it's just more for airplane travel. If you need to it just lowers radiation levels. It doesn't obviously get rid of anything, but it's going to reduce the amount of RF frequency that is able to hit your brain. So it's kind of a cool value added item. It's really actually high quality if you feel the texture of it and everything in person. It's really really good quality.
And now I'm looking here at the Tesla Gold series. This looks interesting for people that are traveling a lot. Like I'd imagine if you're driving, if you have a sales job or a delivery job, or maybe you drive a truck or something, that this Gold series would be something to consider, I would think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have one of those in my car, and it's basically like having a plug in the car. So for long road trips, I like to go backpacking and get out in nature as much as possible. So yeah, when we're on long road trips, that is noticeable to have the extra strength. But for most people, a portable will cover, you're getting just shy of 9 feet of coverage in all directions on a regular portable. So that'll really kind of help everybody in the car. But this, again, is just a stronger signal.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So a cube would be good for someone for like a whole house system. How big is this thing? Could someone take it with them to work and then back home, or is it really kind of cumbersome?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, it looks, yeah, seeing it on the screen here, it looks huge,
Yeah, it looks
but it's
huge, right?
basically, I think it's 4 inches cubed. So it's a pretty small device. I don't think I have one close here. I have a Ultra
Okay.
plugged in under my desk, but
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty size. It's pretty compact.
Yeah, I'm looking here at the research that you have the poultry farm, the dairy cow tests, urine analysis. I know you told me about the poultry farm test, but what about the dairy cow testing?
Yeah, so the dairy cows, what they were doing, so this is in Auckland, New Zealand, and they were basically had them pinned in near these wind turbines. So it's these huge propellers that use wind power to generate electricity. And they have, obviously these huge cables, battery storage, all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stray voltage, a lot of EMF.
Uh-huh.
So we thought, hey, that's a perfect idea to test because it's baseline. They're always grazing around this. And what they did is they checked the somatic cell count, which in this case was the white blood cell count. And they basically just measured the markers, which were several times higher than what baseline should be. Because the body is obviously fighting the EMF in the environment. And they plugged in the Blue Shield devices, and within 8 days, it normalized the white blood cell count within under baseline range, actually. So it became a little bit lower than what they considered baseline to be. So, and again, it's one of those things where if you just plug in a device and an animal has, a physiological response to it, it's pretty amazing. And even I thought the poultry study was way more in depth in the sense that, they were working with 15,000 laying hens, and they weren't just like looking at the blood in that case. They were testing they were also the general health, feathers, rashes, things like that. And what they found is that, like, after a few weeks, they couldn't find any parasites in the blood. But the most significant, I mean, you can read all the data, there's quite a bit there. But one of the significant findings I thought was really cool is that they were losing about 60 to 100 laying hens a month because, obviously it's factory farmed, they're really confined, they're aggressive and nervous animals with a high
Yeah.
level of anxiety anyway.
Right.
So they would kind of peck each other to death because they were crammed in the small space. And that went down to 0 for the first 2 weeks and then only rose to 2 or 4 deaths following it that first month. So what they did was they tested intervals of 30 days, 4 months, and then a year. So it was a year-long study in total.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was pretty remarkable results for something that, is really not well known. Scalar is not really, by and large, widely accepted or understood to a large degree. Because it's really hard to measure. I mean, you're working at the subatomic space that holds the electrons and all the energy and matter together in time space. So
Yeah, it's interesting.
pretty
I'm reading
cool.
here. It says the egg production before installation was between 74 and 78% of the total flock in house one. After 1 month, the average rose to 82 and 84%. The yolk size had improved slightly. The color had changed, become a deeper yellow. Eggs had increased the size by an average of 1 millimeter. The shell appeared to be less fragile in nature, although there was not any significant change in the thickness of the shell. Interesting. So it's affecting, their eggs as well. That's interesting.
Yeah, digestion, absorption, elimination. When the blood cells are strong, it can deliver nutrients all over the body.
Yeah, man, that would be really cool to do even more testing, right?
Yeah, from what I understand, he's working on heart rate variability.
Oh,
And
really?
preliminary stuff is that, men respond a lot faster than women to the heart rate variability studies, which is interesting. But it's too inconclusive and too early on to really say much beyond that. But yeah, pushing the envelope is definitely on the Blue Shield radar because that's really how we're going to, stand out and show people from a left brain perspective that, a lot of these theoretical understandings, can be manifest and are being manifest to help the body remediate EMF issues that we're experiencing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Brandon, thanks, man, for coming on. I could talk all day, and we didn't even barely get to any of the spirituality or the personal development stuff, but man, we'll have to do another show on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you inviting me on. It's been fun.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to thank you too, because it looks like in our store there's a discount code. If anyone wants to grab one of these, if someone types in EHR10, there'll be a 10% discount. So yeah, Brendan, thank you for that. Appreciate that for our listeners.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you again, and we'll be in touch soon. And I'll send you the link to this video as soon as it becomes available. And unfortunately, with this vMix software that we're using, when I hang up from you, I can't talk with you off the air. So we'll have to talk, again some other time. But yeah, thank you for your time and your energy and sharing all this cool information with us today.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, Brandon. Have a great one, man.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
All right, there you go, Mr. Brandon Amalani. What did you guys think? That was episode 616. Let me see if there's anybody chit-chatting. Oh my gosh, Mario, I'm so sorry I didn't ask this question. I should have asked him, what is the life length of the devices? Well, it sounded to me like what he was saying was that you can pass these down to your, kids and grandkids and things like that. So I would imagine it would be a very, very long time. Super Soul Gear Super, the highest reading I've ever had on my EMF non-ionizing radiation meter was an older cordless phone base station. Reading was just over 500,000 microwatts per meter square. Dude, oh my gosh, we've done a lot of shows on EMF radiation, and most people are saying those cordless deck phones are the worst. In our home, we have the old rotary phones. We have all wired phones, and so, man, I'm just not going to bring that wireless stuff into my house. It's just not worth it. Many people need a lot of time to absorb the damage. It is sad. We have to work a lot. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, thank you, Mario. I'm glad you enjoyed that show with Brandon. He's a really cool guy, and getting to know him over the past few months, I really, really like what he's doing, and I like what he stands for, and I like really what he's all about. Personal empowerment, and that's one of the things that people get so scared of in today's culture, especially like I was saying, and on different shows. It's like if you go down these paths, man, you start reading like Matthias Rath's book and about the sort of almost demonic side of the medical industry, and who's really pulling the strings, and then you start looking at all of the stuff that we're not told about, and the cover-ups and the conspiracies, and man, you can really go down a long dark path if you start really allowing yourself to do that. And I see people that I think we all have to go through our journey when we learn about this kind of stuff, because, the first thing is realizing that you've been lied to, and realize that, we haven't been told the truth about it, really basically anything. And since we haven't been told the truth, it's almost like having someone, a dear, trusted loved one, lie to you, because, this is sort of the default of the foundational aspects of how we live our life, right? We watch TV, we use technology, we go inside houses, we wear clothes. I mean, we use money. And so when we realize we've been like lied to about all that stuff, it really opens up the door for a lot of anger. And I think a lot of anger issues, and being upset at the government and fighting the government and all of these things. But I like Brandon's approach, where he's beyond that, and at some point you have to, come to a level of acceptance, and accepting what's happening. And then how do we mitigate? How do we do the personal spiritual work? How do we do the mitigation strategies? How do we combine all of these physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional aspects to live a really grounded and centered life? And that's what it's all about. And so you could do all of those things, but still not have a clear purpose too. So if you don't have a clear purpose of what you're doing, or what you're going to be doing, or what you want to be doing in this life, then you could have a centered spiritual approach to what's happening to us. But if you don't have a clear purpose as to why you're here and where you're going and what your purpose on earth is, then, it could be really, really challenging, because it's one thing to sort of block all the bad stuff, but then why are we here? Like, what are we doing in this world? What's the point of all of this stuff? Is, that's the deeper question here. And having talked to Brandon, he's got a deep spiritual practice that he does, and he really works on himself in that way. So I'm really, really big fan of what he's doing, and not trying to spread fear, because this is the crazy thing. It's like fear is the number one seller, right? Fear is the way to get anyone to do whatever you want them to do. If you want to manipulate the masses, you use fear. And that's been known, from psychology, and it's been known for generations. Fear is what gets people to take action. And I like what he's saying, because he's trying not to make you fearful, but he's also has things that can help mitigate EMF. So it's like it's a bad sort of sales pitch on his part. It's not really a sales pitch, but it's a bad way of presenting solutions, right? Because he has solutions that are incredible, but if he was like a completely unconscious person, living in the mainstream and trying to make a commercial for this, he would make it very fearful, and that gets people to buy things. And I don't know, man. That's just so like. That's just so. I just think that's so wrong to do. To just make people feel so fearful and afraid of everything. And I mean, there's already enough fear out there in the world. And once you start learning more, it's like, man, you can be even more fearful. But when you start realizing that a lot of this stuff can be mitigated through personal growth and taking action and grounding yourself, all that stuff becomes sort of goes away a little bit. And I think that's really the answer here. Is obviously when it comes to EMF and mitigating this stuff, it's super important. Like, we have to do it. It has to be at the forefront of the foundation of our lives. Like, if, more than green juice, more than medicinal mushrooms, like this stuff, EMF is massive. And we really need to get that word out there of how impactful this is on our health. But the real mitigation strategy is a multi-layered, multifaceted approach. So obviously doing all the physical things you could do, like the blue shield, like maybe creating a Faraday cage where you sleep. We like to sleep on the Magnetico mattress pad, which helps to, bathe your body in a magnetic field to help mitigate EMF. And so that's what we do. We're going to be upgrading soon to the super sleep system, and that really helps a lot. And so there's physical things you could do, but ultimately what it comes down to, the answer and the solution to all of our health problems is deep work. And that's what stinks. That's what sucks, right? Because that means that, like, for me, I haven't meditated in like 2 months, and I feel it. It's actually been like 3 months since our kids have been born. We've been so busy, and I haven't carved out that time, and I can feel it. When I'm not meditating, I can feel it. I can feel how I respond to stressors, and I mean, Kate can see it too. I mean, it's like, it's a big deal, and that's really what it comes down to. It's not taking an herb, it's changing your life. It's not taking an herb or a green juice, it's changing your environment, and that means, deep work. That means, okay, I need to change jobs. Maybe my job is just killing me and we know it, or I need to change careers. Maybe my career. Deep down, whether or not the work that you're doing is sucking the life out of you or not. We know these things. And so that's the deep work. The deep work is changing your environment and changing your life. And that means maybe some really personal, powerful decisions, like separating from a lover, or changing careers, or moving to a new state, or moving somewhere else. This is stuff that, like, you can't bottle up and package and sell. That's so important. And so I think we need to work on that stuff, like, changing our environment, changing our life, as well as doing personal growth strategies, like doing Qigong. We have a great Qigong course in our store. If you guys are like sort of beginners and want to try it out, it's in our store. Doing meditation, doing yoga, deep breathing. I'm speaking to myself here. I need to get back to that. And then there's that's the change your life and work on yourself bit. But then there's also the physical things that you need to do, like taking more molecular hydrogen, getting a blue shield, moving your bed away from the wall if there's dirty electricity in the wall, or getting some green wave filters that are in our store to block the dirty electricity in the walls, and doing some of these things on a physical level. So all of these things, it's an invitation for personal growth. And I think that, it's a multi-layered approach that we need to have if we want to live in this modern environment. So hope you guys enjoyed that show. That was really fun. A lot of cool things going on. with Extreme Health Radio. Let me see here. Let me bring up once again our shows coming up on Monday. So on Monday we have Nathan Walls. We'll be talking with him at 9 a.m. about how light is more important than food. And then we have 10:45 a.m. JB Hanley. He'll be talking about vaccines and autism. Then on Wednesday we have Aaron and Geneva Bigelow talking about the AMP coil. And the AMP coil is basically a PEMF Rife machine combination. And on Friday, Jason Prawl live in studio, and we'll be talking with him about success principles, longevity, and all that kind of stuff. We have had quite a few questions come in about having people on that have things to sell, and there's nothing wrong with having something to sell. Otherwise, how does the word get out about great products, right? We're okay with listening to ads on TV or commercials, but for some reason, when we listen to a podcast like this, we don't want to have anything sold to us. But I don't believe that's the case. I think that I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about something like a Bellicon Rebounder or the Relax Far Infrared Sauna or Vitamix Blender, all products that we have in our store, because these things can help optimize and improve your life. The Magnetico, the molecular hydrogen that we have in our store that, Brian Hoyer was talking about mitigating EMF with molecular hydrogen. So I would be remiss to not tell you about these things. And so it's something that I feel has to happen because there are amazing products out there, amazing people behind those products, and we vet those people out. And if you listen to all 615 shows that we've done, the very, very small percentage of them are, talking about different products that you can buy. Most of all of our shows are about personal development and growth and, health hacks and biohacks and, stuff like that. And so, I don't want to pretend like it's evil or bad to have something to buy that's going to optimize your health. That's just not the case. There's great products out there. And, I'm not going to be doing shows all about products all the time, but we do want to feature the good ones, and that's why Brandon was on the show today. And I hope you guys check out his product. If you go to our store, it's available in our store. EHR10 will give you 10% off of anything that you want to buy over Blue Shield. So, all right, I think I'm going to wrap it up because we have our tech support guy is coming and going to help me out with some issues with this software that we're using to stream, so that in case like the video is really choppy, we can use like Google Hangouts or something else. So I got that coming up here pretty soon. All right, guys, we love you very, very much. This was episode 616. So we will put the links at extremehealthradio.com/616 if you guys want to join the live show or get the show notes, anything like that. Make sure to subscribe. If you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, make sure to subscribe wherever you're watching. That way you keep up to date with all of our shows. And also go to our newsletter too. That way you keep up to date with every show that we have, past shows as well as current shows. So if you go to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe, let me put a link in the chat room for you there. It's actually extremehealthradio.com/subscribe. It's actually in the description of this YouTube channel as well. So if you're watching on Dr. John Bergman's channel, thank you for joining us. We are working with Dr. John Bergman on the Extreme Health Academy, and I'll bring that up if you guys want to take a look at the Extreme Health Academy. We just released this groundbreaking course inside the Academy. I'll give you guys a sneak peek at it, all about heart health optimization. So this is why we're streaming on Dr. Bergman's channel, is that we're working with him on the Extreme Health Academy. And these are like high-level courses taught by Dr. John Bergman. I'm going to be adding some of my own content in there as well. And we're also going to be reaching out to other practitioners to make this sort of like the Netflix education piece of Extreme Health Radio. So you can see here, heart health optimization. Coming up this month is going to be adrenal health. So how to completely transform your adrenal health. That's going to be amazing. Autoimmune was last month. Prevent and heal cancer naturally. Balancing your hormones. Building invincible immunity. The complete guide to improving digestion. The nervous system health. and then this 3 stressors course, which is amazing, as well as the getting the healing process started. And then we also have a yoga course in there as well. So adding new courses every single month, and Q&A calls every single week. We're doing so many great things with the Extreme Health Academy. So if you guys want to join and check that out, you can go to extremehealthacademy.com and enter the code EHR14 if you're a fan of Extreme Health Radio. That will give you 2 weeks off, 2 weeks for free. Or you could type in the code Bergman14, and that will give you the same 2-week discount as well. So you can sign up for free, check it out for 2 weeks, and then let us know what you think, and introduce yourself in the forum. We've got over 1,000 people in the community forum, all talking and helping each other. So this is really, really great. High-level stuff here, only for those of you that are serious about your health. So if you're not serious, if you're just kind of hanging out, it's better for you not to join. But if you are serious about your health, this is the place for all of you amazing people. So, all right, guys, we love you very, very much. Let me bring up our little show disclaimer. And I love you, and I'll see you on Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, as well as 10:45 a.m. Pacific as well. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of